Alpine Harry's LLC is requesting the permit to be issued to obtain a wine and malt beverage retail dealers on-premise permit BG and late hours certificate LH from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 412 East Holland Avenue. The property owner of record is Moise Harry and Lang Alos and Claudia. The parcel ID of the subject property is 12335. The current zoning classification of the subject property is C2 Business District and will remain the same if the application is approved. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this? Seeing none, I close public hearings at 5:37. City Secretary. Moving on to public presentations and recognitions, there are none. Proclamations, there are none. Community interest items. Each member, mayor, city manager, and council members will have 1 minute on the clock. City Secretary, if you would please set the timer for 1 minute. Okay, my announcement is that I wanted to let everybody know that our city secretary has completed a marvelous thing. This is from the Texas Municipal Clerks Certification Program, University of North Texas. And they wrote me to inform me that the city secretary and also chief governance officer, Gio Calderon, completed his required professional education for certification as a Texas registered municipal clerk. He is awarded the certificate on January 23rd, 2025. As an officer of the city, achieving certification confirms Gio's professional and personal commitment to his city by staying up to date on laws affecting municipalities in Texas. This certification program offers trainings that result in increased personal awareness, flexibility, and relevant knowledge necessary for more effective administration of local government. Certification is neither easy nor automatic. Certification in their program requires successful completion of approximately 200 hours of individual home study on a 4-course curriculum and attendance at 96 hours of professional development seminars. This certification program is recognized and endorsed by Section 22.074 of the Texas Local Government Code. Congratulations. Okay, city manager.
Just this evening, just want to remind the public that we do have cowboy poetry coming up the weekend of February 20th through the 22nd. It is sold out and there is nowhere to stay. So we're really excited for this year's cowboy poetry. And then the Alpine Police Department is holding a blood drive February 24th and 25th. It will be a mobile drive located at the police station at 309 West Lowell Ross. They do have it on their Facebook page so that you can sign up and get your appointment in. You are more than welcome to show up. We just can't guarantee they'll get you in.
Good deal. Thank you. All right, Councilmember Stevens, 1 minute.
Sorry, I'm writing my notes here.
That's fine.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you, Megan, for that. A couple items, Commissioners Court I went to this last week. One of the important things that Commissioners Court's working on, and it'll be on the February 18th agenda for City Council, is they're going after a fire control grant that I think would be beneficial to the city. So Greg Hennington and the Commissioners Court's working that. So again, and Gio and Megan have that on the February 18th meeting for all of us to take a look at. Planning and zoning at a meeting last week. Unfortunately, there was not a quorum, but I think one of the great discussions that happened at planning and zoning was a little discussion about R4 and potential for mixed use. I know we're going to hear more about that from a council standpoint, and that's one thing I think is really good to work on. The other thing, Brewster County is looking at expanding their emergency services bunkhouse in South County. So they've got a number of things going on there. And the last that I had is that Carlos Hernandez, who's the Commissioner's Court, gave a great presentation on what's going on at Sul Ross, with the enrollment being up 30% this year, primarily due to a dual enrollment. But they've got a number of things they're going after this legislative session to bring more funding into Sul Ross.
Good deal.
That's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilmember Escobedo, 1 minute on the clock.
Oh, I just wanted to definitely thank Gio for that accomplishment. I don't remember a city secretary having that
None have.
that I've known about. So
Thank you.
a big congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez, 1 minute on the clock.
Congratulations, you. I take you out for dinner or dance. You choose.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I have two announcements. They are doing dance classes in the Granada Theater. A lot of people have asked me, how they can learn how to dance? Well, this is a lady who is teaching classes in Granada, so the information is on the website. And just a reminder that the Sweet Gala for the Catholic Church is coming February 15th. So, you know, the Catholic Church is a historic building and needs a lot of remodeling and work done and so many things that we need to fix. So we are asking you for your support. Just come in, have fun and support a good class. We see you there.
Thank you. 1 minute on the clock, Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to lift up a good friend, Jim Kim, and his passing. We're remembering him. It's been a very hard last couple of days noting that, and his community, part of kind of the Cedar Coffee family. To just remember to take care of your folks, and you know, actions, regardless if they're close to home or not, they have consequences. And so keep talking to your community, and you can dial 988. It's in Spanish and English. It's 24-hour hotline if you're ever at risk of suicide, or reach out to me.
Thank you. All right, moving on, City Secretary, to changes to posted agenda. Are there any items to be continued or withdrawn, council? Okay, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion, council? Are there any action items to be added to the consent agenda? Are there any time-sensitive items? Okay, moving on, consent agenda, City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda contains two items. Item A, tourism update by director, approval of the January 21st, 2025 regular meeting minutes. And item B, approval of the appointment of Tara Gaukler to the place 4 position on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I need a motion.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I need a second.
My second.
Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, all council members voted in favor of approving the consent agenda. Remember, Councilmember Nance is absent away on work commitment. Okay, there were no items removed from the consent agenda. Now we're moving on to reports and presentations. You will have 6 minutes to give your report. First one is our update by Chris Ruggia, our Director of Tourism.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, long
Nice
time
to
to see you.
Yeah, thank you. As noted, I'm Chris Ruccia, your Director of Tourism. And we'll have a few slides for you.
Right.
Expect. Oh, it's there. Here we go. The only thing on the first slide I would point out is this says includes data from Zardico, and what Zardico is a visitor dashboard, they call it, which is something that Alpine partners with Marfa. We split the costs down the middle. That is a data collection and analysis tool that collects geolocation information from mobile devices. It anonymizes it, so in no way do we know any individual personal information about anyone. But when folks opt in on an app on their phone, like weather that follows their location, that then goes into a pot of data that a lot of different companies collect, and Zardico is one of those. The nice thing about this one is it also correlates that device ID is the word I'm going for, with credit card activity. And so that's why we can have the spending information that we have in here. One of the big things to point out, though, is this is a sample, because it requires someone, before they show up in our dashboard, they've opted into an app on their phone, and then they access that app on their phone when they're in a place that we've identified as important. And so we've pointed out the museum and the shops and the hotels and lots of places all over the Tri-County area. But that's only so many places, and it requires someone to pull out their phone and access an app that they've opted into. So so none of these numbers are hard and fast. It just gives us a guideline. We can infer information rather than rely on it as the last word. So I just want to make sure that's true. Now, this number is the last word because this one actually comes from our finance department. So these are the collections of hotel occupancy taxes for the last 2 fiscal years. And as you'll see, we collected $1,400 more this year than last. That is an increase. Seems like a very tiny one, but I consider this number to be a dramatic success because I've been hearing all year about how collections are down. I heard this actually statewide. I was talking to Robert Alvarez at Visit Big Bend. He was telling me that he goes to a lot of travel shows that I don't go to. He's hearing it everywhere that last year was very, very slow. There was a big dip. I interpreted that too as maybe we had lost some of our pandemic bump where everyone wanted to get out of the cities. And so we really actually did quite well during the latter portion of the pandemic. I thought, oh, well, maybe things are normalizing and that's why we're going down. But it turned out we weren't down. We were just kind of flat, which is good. So next slide, Gio.
So excuse me, Chris.
Yes,
So the sales tax is down.
that number I don't have at my fingertips.
So sales tax is down. They're coming, but they're not spending.
Or sales tax, we get a lot from local residents. In addition to those coming from outside, we can't distinguish from that, can we?
Not yet, but I do have access to some reports I'm gonna start proceeding to council that will
Okay.
give you a better picture
That'd
of,
be great.
and including online.
Okay, so well, see, that's my point is, we got the number of visitors staying in hotels are spending the money. But it's the sales tax is down because other people are not buying here, probably those who live here.
Yeah, and it would be, in the past, we've generated like a tourism economy index that included, I had a revenue report for the previous year that included sales tax data, so it might be helpful to collate
Correlate those.
that with this timeline here. Now, what you're seeing here is without numbers, this just shows the amount of activity.
Yep.
This is from Holiday Inn and Hampton.
Yep.
But we've, it's confidential, so there's no actual numbers, but it does tell us when they are busy and when they are not.
Yep.
And it compares the 2 years. It shows they were really close last year and the year before. Notice that January is by far, especially in 2024, by far the lowest. And that's something that we've been working on. So this year we actually had 2 events in January. There was the Far West Comic Con that they selected a January date. I did suggest it, but it was, they're doing, and I'm hoping that was helpful. It seemed like they had a good crowd. And then this last weekend, right on the cusp of January and February, we had our second wildlife weekend, which seemed to be a big success in terms of turnout and a good proportion self-identified as from out of town. So we're working on that. Next, where are the visitors coming from? This is one thing that Zartico is very good at. It doesn't tell us exactly how many, but it can compare of that sample that we've got. Midland, Odessa, unsurprisingly, sends the most people. It also then is the largest share of spending from visitors. It is not the largest spending per visitor, but it's kind of solidly in the middle and it tracks 20-something%. Yeah, well, depending on the number, the chart you're looking at. This says 18% of our visitors, almost 18% of our visitor spending. San Antonio is next, then Dallas, Fort Worth in terms of number of people. One thing you might note, Austin sends 9.3% of our visitors come from there, but 14% of our visitor spending is from Austin. That is higher than I expected. These numbers are just from Alpine. It's difficult in the Zartico dashboard to separate Alpine and Marfa because we're kind of all in one pot. But this report they made for me, it's Alpine only. What I've generally seen historically is that the Austin market is really closely connected with Marfa. And so more Austinites come to Marfa, more of them spend more in Marfa than in Alpine. But this is a welcome sight that we are getting some of that. Then I'll move on to the next slide. This is just a few little factoids that I won't go into now, but you can see them in the packet. One of the things here that I point out is, of 45% of all the devices observed. So the dashboard, pings whenever any mobile device, is turned on, access that's opted in that point of interest. They know where the devices spend most of their time, and that's how they can sort travelers from residents. And so they're showing that in those points of interest that we've identified as important for tourism, almost half the people observed there are visitors. And just about half of the spending activity coming through the dashboard is from visitors. Let's see, one thing that Darren in his email pointed out, San Angelo actually had the highest spending on average per visitor. And San Angelo is identified when I was working with our Zartico rep as an opportunity market that we'll be working on. Lastly, visitors from Odessa Midland spent 259% more time on the events page, which says that's not surprising because people from Midland come out repeatedly and they're looking for what there is to do in Alpine at the time that they're going to visit us. And then the last two slides are these highlights that in restaurants, Zartico's dashboard shows 62% of the spending coming from visitors. Now, once again, it's not a hard and fast number, but even if there's a huge margin of error, that shows how important our tourists are to our local economy. And the last slide is similar, showing 59% of retail spending coming from visitors. And that's everything I have for you right now. Hopefully I'm under 6 minutes.
You are.
Gladly.
That wasn't wrong, so you did very well.
Gladly take
Alright.
any questions if you have.
Councilmember Stone.
I love the report. Thank you for organizing all this. I know from working with you a little bit in my Fort Davis hat back in the day, enjoyed it, was good times. You got the markets right here, and I know that that's typically, at least a couple years ago, that's where we were spending money in advertising. Really good to see that. Also at the same time, gallery nights, that's where y'all are spending money, I know. And so
Absolutely.
that's good.
And if
stuff.
one event affects sales tax in our whole calendar, it's our one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I think, we were even talking a couple of years ago was that January, February slump. I'm loving that you're looking for events to go in there. And so just all compliments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And speaking of February, next weekend, Guitar in the Big Bend is returning, which is a classical guitar concert series that Nick Hurt, teaching at Sol Ross, is putting on. He'll have a concert Friday in Marfa, and Saturday, all day, masterclass at the university, and then a guitar builder show, and then in the afternoon, and then a concert at the museum Saturday evening.
Good stuff.
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank you for your good job. We've been working together for a long time, so I know you're a hard worker. Thank you so much. I have no questions. I just
I
congratulate
appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Councilmember Escobedo.
Great report.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, I'll echo that great report, Chris. One of the questions in my mind, if we're trying to motivate business owners to stay open, what's our strategy to get all of this data out to business owners so they actually do stay open when visitors show up?
That's a good question. And one channel might be the network that was just built in that community summit that Alpine Community Projects put together. And so I'll talk to Kirsten Moody about that.
If you would.
Yeah,
Okay.
Great. Good question. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Well done. Thank you. All right, moving on, Alpine Police Department. City Manager.
Every year, the Alpine Police Department is required to file their racial profiling report. In this year's packet, you have the 2024 racial profiling report. It allows for insurance of transparency, accountability, and compliance with the state regulations, guidelines, and practicing. There was one slight error made. The report was off by one number, which has been corrected in the copy provided in your black folders. And we will update the packet as well so that the public has it as well. It is a requirement of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Guidelines, and Chief Lozoya is here this evening if you have specific questions in regards to the data collection and the report itself.
Council, do you have any questions for Chief?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions.
All right, come on up, Chief. So Chief Lasoya. All right, Councilmember Stone.
Good to see you, Chief. Thanks for being here as always. I'm noticing, as I remember from last year, right when I started attending these, I think, in lieu of running, that there's no complaints, missing. How do complaints get done if there would be a complaint?
So the complaints would go to my dispatch. One of the things that I was actually looking at doing, some agencies provide on their business cards.
Yeah.
Provide a QR code to give them the opportunity to go off the QR code. And so that's one of the ideas. And also not only provide complaints, but also compliments as well.
Yeah, sure.
And so
I love that. And that's just, I think, I noticed when I had to file a report, like I had to go find the police office, which I'd never been there before. I had to be like, as the back of this, office, I was like,
Yeah.
and then you have to like go in there. And to be honest, like a lot of people might be like me. You get, some of us don't have the best relationships. Some people, and not saying it's because of you or your department or any particular person. But it can be hard confronting a police, especially in a complaint process.
Yes.
So that might be really neat to see that it becomes virtual in a way of that. Not to say, I don't think you would get a ton of frivolous things to go through. And if
Right.
that happened, we'd want to revisit that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I can't remember if it was last year or the year before we did have a complaint.
Uh-huh.
But that was.
It was, it got handled. Sure thing. The last thing I just wanted to ask on searches and so forth.
Yes, sir.
When y'all ask to do a search, I'm guessing these are vehicle stops, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. And so when someone gives a search, or permission to have a search, are they given like are they told that they can say no to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, they are told that they can say no. And then on the probable causes, do you have an idea of what those were from?
Usually it's either something seen in plain view.
Sure.
Or the smell of.
Probably cannabis or something like
Yes,
that.
Yes.
And how are we doing on our cannabis? I noticed that there were a few on the last couple January court dockets. Are those now
So-
going through prosecution or?
So those are not being arrested, they're forwarded to the prosecutor.
Okay.
And the prosecutor is given the
Vehicle.
sometimes we get repeat offenders, I should say.
Sure.
And that's when they're considered by the county attorney, who's either following through with them or.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to document each one of these
Yes.
because especially like in the case of a DWI, if we're comparing something like that, the third one becomes a felony.
Yes.
And if you don't say, we saw a report about that in the paper, I think last week, saying if you don't get the first and the second, then somebody just keeps doing DWIs over and over.
Yes.
So I totally understand that,
Yes.
but perhaps that'd be a good conversation to have in the future with the prosecutor about making sure that we are, of course, and this is just what I ran on, other folks can have other views, but a nuisance versus something that's dangerous versus something that's deadly and making sure that we're prosecuting and doing what would be best for the community.
Yes, and we had that conversation where we had the smell of marijuana coming from an apartment.
Sure.
And the officers ended up getting the search warrant for the home.
Yeah.
And ended up finding that he was actually selling out of that apartment, so.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's absolutely over, I think it's 2 ounces and
And-
selling is felonies versus misdemeanor counts, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
And he was in full.
Yeah, sure, in a school zone, that doubles that thing. The last thing I'd say is, are you feeling like the officers have the tools that they need? I know that the state gives discretion to y'all based on obviously arresting or just citing or warnings and everything. Do you feel like your officers have everything and they're doing what you want
Yes.
them to do?
Yes, and we do it as a way of having our discretion.
Sure.
But also a way of courtesy towards them.
Yeah.
And giving them opportunity, this is your opportunity to fix what you're doing and
Sure.
hopefully give them on the right path.
Yeah,
And giving them also another way to how to feel towards police officers.
absolutely. I appreciate that too. I mean, I've just getting to know you more has helped me with past times that I've had issues or maybe preconceived notions that probably weren't needed and supported. And
Yes,
a
sir.
good police officers just, there's tons of them out there, but one bad apple in anything
Yes.
always, it stinks,
Yes.
it stinks. And so I want to appreciate everything that you're doing and all the conversations that we've had.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for all your service and your department's service. Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
Councilmember Martinez?
Hi, Chief.
Hey.
Thank you for coming every meeting. You're the loyal people here that comes to all the meetings. I don't have questions. I just want to congratulate you for your wonderful job you are doing and the excellent teamwork that you have in your office. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Escobedo?
You do a good job.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Stevens?
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
No, I think you do a fabulous job.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Appreciate
Okay,
that.
thank you. All right, moving on to action item, or no, yes, information or discussion items is where we're at. So information discussion item A belongs to Councilmember Stevens.
Thanks, Mayor. The reason I put this on the agenda is, I struggle with our current 2-week deadline for getting agenda items in. The agenda for the next meeting has to be turned in tomorrow. And I just wanted to raise that as an issue. It's not clear to me we get any benefit out of it. I know we've got a sequence to work our way through. But I, for one, would like to see us change chapter 23 to a much easier timeline. Because frankly, we'll go through, we only have 700 or almost 700 pages of stuff to go through tonight, and the meeting won't be all that long. But then tomorrow, like most of us, we have other things to go do. And we have to have it submitted by 5 o'clock tomorrow, or it doesn't meet the agenda. And so I'm finding things are getting pushed out, not 1, but 2, maybe 3 meetings trying to get caught up. And my view is that just doesn't work. So I think we need to change chapter 23 to give us a greater gap between when the meeting is and when we have to have our deadline. If it moved to Friday, that would help a lot. You know, it used to be a week before, but this current one isn't working for me. So that's what I wanted to raise.
So you're suggesting moving it 2 days
Move it
out?
2 or 3 days out. Yeah, the following week, Monday, gives an opportunity for a weekend, collect our thoughts, go work. Because there are a number of things I go work to talk to people about to be able to bring things forward. And there is just no time. And so as a result, we're slowing down a lot in the city. And that is a complaint I get. It takes forever to get things done in the city because of our council agenda.
Councilmember Escobedo?
I'll have to agree with that. When I first saw how things had to be submitted, I was just not getting. I didn't like it at all. I have to agree with that.
Okay.
By the time we get something, it's too long.
Councilmember Martinez?
Well, I'm barely learning when to put things in the agenda and how long and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I think we have a few days in advance, so before to put it in the agenda for the next meeting. Because yeah, I wanted to ask Megan, how come this hasn't put it in the agenda? But it was because they have the process to go through this and that, so. Yeah, I think we're slowing a lot because of that agenda items.
Councilmember Stone?
Echo, same thing. Gio, what can we do to make your life not too difficult and also we're all up here in the same way, feel it this way?
The big reason was they gave council 7 days to review the packet.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I gave the public 2 days because we had complaints about releasing it only 24 hours before the meeting.
Sure.
But I mean, if the council doesn't need that much time to review the packet, we can certainly just adjust those days.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Amen.
Okay, all right, thank you. So can we add this as an action item? What's the next step?
So if you're gonna change an ordinance, it has to go through the ordinance process, which is the modifications have to be made 2 weeks for the legal team and council to review and make suggestions. And then it would become the first reading and then the second.
Okay, can we start that? Absolutely. All right,
Great.
thank you, Councilmember Stevens. Moving on to information discussion item B, city manager.
This item is to discuss and regarding consideration of a second ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of an unimproved portion of South Fifth Street lying between lot 5, block 1, and lot 10, block 2 of Ferguson, second addition to the city of Alpine, Brewster County, Texas, compromising of approximately pricing of approximately 0.096 acres to Horticultural Consulting LLC. I had this item added on the agenda as a discussion item. I do have Paracoats available on Zoom to do some follow-up questions. Council denied the sale of this property. Part of it was the utilities. There was a lot of discussion back and forth with the utilities. Myself and interim utility director Johnny Marcus did meet with her husband, and he walked us through the property. We walked through where the utilities were. And we did consider compromising as far as they're not wishing to purchase the full property anymore. They like the back half of the property so that, you know, the utilities are still accessible. Mr. Marcus is here this evening as well, if you have any questions regarding the utilities. The reason why it was added as a discussion item first is because Mr. and Mrs. Coates have spent quite a bit of money to get it appraised, to get it surveyed, to have it denied, the permitting or the process. I didn't want them to start the process again. If the council was gonna have any of our concerns, because utilities is our biggest concern with our properties. But in light of all the other properties we have sold and are pending to sell, I thought that this would be a great discussion item. I also want the council to be aware that I have started working back on the sale of city property ordinance, so that we have a little bit more of the check boxes, the clarity. Both Mr. Marcus and myself agreed that the compromise would be agreeable. I mean, they don't want to touch the utility side, they just want the back side of that abandoned street. And then we can move forward with them actually doing the application. They would have to have it reappraised and surveyed. And then, of course, if it does sell, then it would be replatted. So I wanted to bring this for discussion since Ms. Coates is available online for you to ask her questions. I know you guys have had questions in regards to the property itself. They're not trying to utilize it to build on. They're really just wanting to connect the two properties that they own on either side.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo.
I think if the utilities aren't gonna be a problem, I don't see why we shouldn't.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, I remember that discussions that it didn't pass because they had utilities that other neighbors had to have access to that, so I was a little confused when I saw the agenda again. So does mean that they are buying a small amount, the property that they
Correct.
were asking before?
Correct. So one of the pictures that you'll see has the revised where they're looking at purchasing the back half of the road
Mhm.
instead of the full road. So it is a smaller footprint.
So there won't be any problem for the city to have access to all
No.
utilities.
Councilmember Stevens.
I guess the only question I have is, other than connecting the property, why buy the property?
I will let Ms. Coates answer that.
Yeah, just,
Hi, this is Kara Coates. I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question? It was garbled at the last on the video.
yeah, not a problem. So the question is, if there's no plans to build anything on the property, why buy the connecting property?
Sure, it's a great question. So we own the one property and the other side, my parents own the property. And there are two reasons we'd like to have exclusive access to it. The property that we purchased, that's a vacant lot, is actually just a little bit less than 7,000 square feet. So it would not be a buildable parcel under the city code. So this expands the size of the parcel just a little bit to meet city code for building. Also, we'd like to be able to connect the two properties. We might actually join the two tax parcels eventually, we don't know. But to be able to go from one property to the next, just on a pathway, land that is owned by us as opposed to right of way, gives us a lot more use of the property.
And so let's assume, life goes on, they'll own the property, if this goes through. Someone in the future may say, I want to build on it. Does the city care if anything gets built on that from the utility standpoint?
No, because they're giving up the part of the utility.
They're far enough there.
Yeah, there's no.
Okay, then that's my question. Thank you.
course.
Member Stone?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Appreciate y'all taking the extra time to look for a compromise there.
Yes. All right, okay. All right, thank you, city manager, and you're gonna move this forward?
Yes, so Kara, I'll get with you later this week and we'll go through the next steps.
Great. We thank everyone for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, moving on to discussion information item C, Councilmember Stone.
Awesome. I expect this to be pretty quick. I'm bringing this up because of the notion that there was an airport advisory, and I'm just looking for why it was there. And then, besides all of the gossip and other things that have gone on, why it got rid of. And so just looking to basically bring up is, do we need to have this? I am not on either side. So just looking, we're kind of just getting a background from if the city manager can lead me through what we had and what we got rid of and maybe why it was purposeful or why we didn't need it.
Multiple reasons. So when I started with the city, I was actually semi-responsible for the airport advisory board. Multiple times the city reached out to the advisory board in assistance with trying to update the rules and regulations, with trying to update for projects, get insight. It wasn't always beneficial. And a lot of times, there was some defensiveness towards it. Filling the seats was also very hard. You couldn't just have anyone on the airport board, obviously, because, you want knowledgeable individuals. Obviously meeting a quorum was also an issue. Ultimately, the reason we decided to step away from the airport advisory board was, one, the city had taken a direction where they were moving forward with all the necessary projects within TxDOT, utilizing, everything that was possible, moving forward with the layout plan. We did create a position in 2020 where there is now an actual airport supervisor, someone that was out there. And there was just some concerns with some of the behavior and actions of the advisory board members.
Sure. And I've heard all of the things in many different ways. Do you think that the personal issues amongst maybe members of this body or that body or the community, do you think that got in the way of where it could actually be useful? And what I mean by that, I know of at least one county resident that complains, quite frequently, at least right now. And we have had in the past where people were like, hey, there's lights coming into the north side of town, or, in your area, there's folks that were complaining about different things about the airport, noting that y'all, mayor's right next to it. Would it be beneficial to have someone to be able to go and complain to talk to about those things?
So we do have procedures put in place.
Okay.
With the airport supervisor and the FAA in regards to some of those complaints.
Okay.
Most don't want to follow the process.
Sure.
Because it does involve them having to provide a little bit more information than there's a plane flying over my house.
Sure.
We've had council members prior assist some of those individuals who've made complaints with providing the documentation and means to do so.
Sure.
The FAA is aware of some of those complaints as well. And our supervisor currently does reach out to those who, if we have the information, if we know the tail number, we know the plane, or, maybe even the individual, we have those conversations with.
Yeah.
So I really think if the process would just be followed, I mean, they're not always going to get the result that they want at the end.
Yeah.
But we've accommodated multiple residents, not just in, the Alpine jurisdiction, but also in the county.
Sure.
The lighting, for one, we did get multiple complaints on that. We have remedied that. We've also had the complaints with the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's dusty out there.
Yeah.
It's a dirt road. We worked through that back with our supervisor.
Sure.
As well. So I personally don't think we need an advisory board at this point in time.
Okay. I guess I would just ask mayor, members, any other things on, like, do y'all feel, I know there's helicopters sometimes maybe in other parts of town. I'm guessing Ward 1 or maybe Ward 5 are typically the ones, maybe 2 too. Maybe everybody gets a little bit of here and there, but y'all feel like you're being able to field those things when you hear them and dealing with them appropriately?
Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, I don't have any problem dealing with them.
I turn people towards you, to be honest, because
Well,
I
yeah,
know
and
you
I-
fly
and
and you know what's up.
I've had lots of discussions on Airport Advisory Board. I would tell you, I was off council at the time that the Airport Advisory Board went away. I think there is a bigger discussion beyond this that's gonna come up at a future city council meeting, because I've asked to be put on the agenda. And that's the discussion about boards in general because of lack of quorum.
Sure,
It's an issue.
yeah.
One can argue till the cows come home whether there's quorum or not quorum with the Airport Advisory Board before. And I don't want to get into that, but my experience has been that we are really struggling with our boards and commissions. And frankly, I would tell you, my approach is going to be that we take them out of quorum mode and make them advisory groups for us, whether they have quorum or not, and they can still make their advisory for us. For example, at the last planning and zoning meeting, we didn't have quorum. There's an item I wanted the planning and zoning to talk about. They couldn't talk about it because they're not getting quorum. And so I would hope that when we have that discussion, we can include the airport potentially committee as part of that dialogue, and then decide overall, do we want to have boards or commissions or not? And Megan and I have talked about it. I am one who's a believer that we ought to have boards and commissions wherever we're at, because it helps us as council. But to go put them through the process of formal minutes, formal agendas and everything else, I think we do a disservice to us as council by forcing them to go through all that.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'll have to agree with Rick, because some of them don't want, they don't want to be doing the minutes. They want something a little bit more simpler. It is very hard to get people on the commissions, on the boards. Some may say yes today and then they think about it and then they're not all with it. And you need people that want to be there, that have that passion to want to serve. And to me, that's important. So if we need to change things, then we need to do it.
Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, I don't have any comment on that airport committee because I'm not really very informed. But I agree with Rick because we had that what was the animal, yeah, that we couldn't have the meeting either because it was no quorum. So we have to wait for I don't know how many months for the next meeting.
And as far as the airport, I live not too far from there. And I think it's functioning well. For a while, beacon seemed to be going right into my bedroom window at night, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Well, that was Abel's fault.
Yeah, that was all April's fault. Yeah, but
Yeah.
somehow we fixed it. I don't know, but the beacon
Yeah.
is still there.
It's working.
So it's
It's there.
safe.
Yeah.
I know it's for safety reasons. So,
And so folks can come and talk to us when they need to, right?
Right.
Yeah, cool.
Right.
And I appreciate and acknowledge all y'all's comments on kind of the expansion that the conversation had and do appreciate that. The one thing I'll say, and just noting that, you know, this is something that I've heard from multiple folks, is that the airport is kind of like one place that while I know Rick and others that live here do use it, it also is not necessarily in a way, unless you're having an emergency, you know, I ain't getting a plane flight to Austin or somewhere else out of Alpine. And so it's not something that's necessarily accessible or useful for the average citizen, particularly, unless we're on an air emergency flight, you know, sometimes. And so just noting that equitable or equal access type of thing, that it might be good to have to make sure that we do have in all of our things, more communication around that. And making sure that we talk to everybody the same way, but appreciate the conversation. Thank
Okay.
you all.
thank you for bringing it up. All right, moving on to discussion item D, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is to discuss the Alpine Police Department Policy Manual updated by Lexi Poll. Chief Lasoya had reached out about a year and a half ago regarding their police handbook, needing to make some updates. In the past, different officers have been trying to update it on their own, working with the Athens police chief. never was very successful. He found Lexipool, which is an agency or entity that actually helps with this. And the beauty of it is they not only walk through updating the policy handbook to make sure we're not only state compliant, but federal compliant as well. But they also have a training aspect of it as well. So it's not, here's 850 pages for you to memorize and know how to do everything from start to finish. It's, here's your policy handbook, and this week we're gonna focus on this, and you're gonna get a quiz. And you're gonna walk through the process and understanding those policies. This was paid for out of his abandoned vehicle fund, which is money that is brought in for those vehicles that they auction off. So I'm very proud that he moved forward with this, had an outside agency come in to review. It was a group effort. Chief and his team put a lot of time and effort into it. It addresses all of the major things within the department. And it also does correspond with, of course, obviously our city policies as well. Chief is here to go over it because he had the hands-on experience with it. But we wanted to get it before council because in prior discussions, we've talked about the SOPs and policies, and this would be one of those administrative ones. So we wanted you to see the end result. It is a beautiful, I say
800 page, it is 800.
It's a lot of information, and so over the next year, his department, they're trained on it. They have little webinars, little online
That's good.
training things, and it's not just for those who are currently employed, but as we bring people in, they'll also
Yeah.
have it.
Because that could be quite overwhelming if you hand a new employee that and say, here, learn this.
I
So
think he
that's
was
great.
hesitant to send it to me because I asked for it a couple of times, and then when he did, I was just like, how do I get the city one to be this big? But he is here if you have questions regarding
Come on up,
the
Chief.
handbook. I did try to summarize it a little bit. It does go over a lot of the development and training, the core policies within the department.
And it has a table of contents. I hope.
Definitions,
Do that.
it provides a lot of information. And of course, with state legislation, they're proposing more changes. Lexipool would be able to assist us with making those changes if necessary, especially if it applies to us. It was a year in the works, about a year, maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of information, but now this will help the department, especially as we're out in the field, as they're doing their job. And unfortunately, if we do get sued.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for going forward with that. It looks like a lot of information, a lot of work put
Right.
into it.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that there will be trainings.
Yes, ma'am.
Certain
Yeah.
sections, because that can be overwhelming if you hand that to.
Each
a-
of the officers will have their own tasks that they have to complete as part of it. Like I told you when I first was hired, my ultimate goal is to be an accredited agency. That's what I'm striving for. And this one has all the policy manual has, it all has best practices. And so it has that all in there. That's recommended by the Texas Police Chiefs Association and in order to receive accreditation. So that's our ultimate goal. So, and this will lead us there.
Councilmember Martinez.
I don't know how you do it. All this working time that you have to do to get all this paperwork ready and plus keep the city safe. You're a hero. Thank you so much for your work.
I appreciate that.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm glad that you went and got this revised. I'm sure it really
Yes.
needed it. Also where you got the funds, that to me is really important. I
You
mean,
betcha.
when you go and you're searching and find where to get them, that's good.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. We already talked about one of my other priorities and a little bit earlier, so I won't go towards there. I'm guessing you might know where I'm going towards on this one. I'm looking, and this is the updated version, or this is what we're trying to update.
Yes.
Or this is what we're trying to update.
This is the update.
This is the
updated version. Awesome. When I looked across here, I'm looking at the immigration violations section. I'm noticing that it says it's a policy of APD that all members are professional and that, of course, we want folks to come out and to be able to report crimes regardless.
Yes.
Love that language because I think that's something that, regardless of what spectrum you feel in immigration, we want to make sure that crimes are talked about in our community and reported.
And as you
Yeah.
mentioned that, one of the things that we strive for is if they are witnesses or victims of a crime, we can assist them in obtaining their residency by providing them with the first step of a U or T visa to assist them with that. And that's part of what Texas provides for them.
That's fantastic. I love to hear that too. I see on detention that there's no detention for any civil violations being held for federal immigration laws and I know that you occasionally do support through the Operation Lone Star and
Correct.
other ways. I'm guessing that the difference between that is a felony violation or someone that you're actively trying to find during someone evading arrest,
Mhm.
maybe running drugs, running people, whatever it might be, versus someone that, I don't know, jaywalking, is my guess between those.
Yes,
Is that a
and
good example?
yes, and so I understand what you're saying. So even a lot of times the way we make contact with these persons is because of some type of criminal action
Sure.
that leads us to that. And so and I could say honestly that most of the time we're like, you know what, they're gonna get deported anyways. Let's just contact either Border Patrol or drive into the Border Patrol office and just release them there instead of taking them through their process. Mind you, if it's a serious offenses, yes, then we'll lead that direction. But if they're sitting on somebody's property and they can be taken from there,
Okay.
then we'll do that.
So would that be seen, and now I'm a little more confused, because when I read this, it seemed really clear to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spotlight, and I respect everything you're doing, and I know you gotta follow some laws or different things. They
Yes.
might change, who knows? But if someone is jaywalking across the street and an officer walks up to them and they can't provide an ID at that moment, what would be the action? Can you walk me through? They're getting driven over to Border Patrol at that moment?
No.
Okay.
Well, we can find a way
Sure.
of a person's documented
Sure.
or not.
Yeah,
And so
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that.
okay.
So
Okay.
if they're illegally here in the United States, then we'll release them to Border Patrol. And
Okay.
yes.
Would that be seen as a detention for a length of time then? Would that be against, because a civil violation, a jaywalking would be, it's quote, an officer should not detain any individual for any length of time for a civil violation of federal immigration laws or a related civil warrant, end quote. Is that different than what you just said?
Yes.
Okay,
So if we're dealing with somebody in this civil aspects, then it's not something that we're gonna release them to
okay.
to
You
Border Patrol.
wouldn't take them to. Border
Correct.
Patrol. Okay,
Correct.
so that was different from what you just said. I swear I'm not trying to trip you up here, but I'm just trying to make sure that it's an 800-page document.
Yes.
And I'm reading a sentence out of it, and I just want to make sure that that's heard, I guess.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I think the confusion was between civil and
Ah,
criminal.
sure.
And
Yes.
the chief was focused on criminal.
Okay,
So yeah, civil, they're just gonna go about the.
appreciate that. I think we all have a little more clarification, hopefully now too.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other
Councilmember
questions?
Stevens?
None for the chief. I think it's terrific, chief. The question I have for Megan is, so this is a model for all the departments. When will the rest of the departments have their SOPs in place? Sorry, chief.
They've all been tasked with starting to work on that. They don't have the benefits of a third party coming in.
I know, I knew that, but it's a great model, and I think the
Yeah.
more people have it, it just makes turnover and discussions a whole lot easier. Yeah, so well done.
We have one U officers and he's got a long road ahead of him, not only at the training that he does, but also understanding our policies and making sure he understands how we do things. So,
So the city manager said there's a little, you give him a section and then there's a quiz.
yes, it's a task. I think the abbreviation is DTB. And basically they have a task to make sure that they understand it, they're quizzed on it, and then if they have any questions, then they can follow up on it. So, yeah. All our officers have department issued cell phones, so they have an app on their phone that has the policy on there and as well. So
That would have been nice.
Really good.
Yeah, we really do need that, Megan. That's a lot.
What new?
Thank you so
happened.
much for your good work. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. All right, so at this time, let's take a 5-minute break before we go into action items. It's 6:31 PM. City Secretary. Okay, and the meeting is resuming at 6:36 PM. Moving on to action items. First action item belongs to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item A is to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-01. Repealing Article 3 Water Conservation Plan and Article 4 Drought Contingency Plan of Chapter 66. Natural Resources to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, establishing an updated water conservation drought contingency plan, establishing criteria for the initiation and termination of a drought response stages, establishing restrictions on certain water uses, establishing penalties for the violation of and provisions for enforcement of these restrictions, establishing procedures for granting variances, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, and providing for the following clauses: cumulative penalty savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date.
I need a motion.
I move that we approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-01.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
This item was originally discussed and passed the first reading on January 7th, 2025. It unfortunately did not make it to the second agenda in January. So it's back before council for the final review and approval. This was updated by our engineers in order to, one, stay compliant with TCEQ regulations, but also to provide a little bit additional insight into our water usage goals, education, definitely the enforcement and penalty that's been a question in the past. Council did approve the first reading January 7th.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
I've got nothing.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo,
I don't have anything.
Councilmember Martinez,
No questions.
Councilmember Stowe.
Really quickly, are we planning to go into stage 1 or 2 or 3 anytime soon? Are we good?
I can answer that. The summers are the hardest for us on the west side of Alpine.
Yeah. And so,
So if we get a bunch of rain, then no, we're not gonna have a problem.
okay.
Um,
And is rain really the thing that does it, or is it more the infrastructure sometimes? Because it's wells, right?
So the infrastructure is what causes us to go into
Yeah.
the conservation contingency aspect. When it rains, believe it or not, people do use less water.
Sure, okay, understood, and then
And
therefore we
it
have
cools
more.
off the community so that they're not running their air conditioners. It's an option, but it's.
Cool. I just wanted to be aware so that I don't wash my car really anyway, so. Thanks.
All right, we ready to vote? Let's vote. Councilmember Stowe.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, council voted unanimously to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-01. Remember, Councilmember Nance is out. All right, moving on to action item B, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item B is to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-02. An ordinance amending chapter 74 Parks and Recreation, Article 1, in general to the Alpine Code of Ordinances, amending and establishing rules and regulations for all city parks, providing for the establishment of permitting process for festivals, events, and alcohol, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty per occurrence for violations of the ordinance, providing for the following findings of fact, enactment, repealer, penalty, savings, severability, proper notice of meeting, and effective date clauses.
I need a motion.
I move we approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-02 and ordinance amending chapter 74 as presented.
I second.
Great. City manager discussion.
This item has been a work in progress. I give props to our Parks and Recreation Board. They spent multiple meetings going over this, walking through all the different areas, making a lot of hard decisions, talking it through, drafting it themselves, but they did a lot of work and reviewing it. City Council did get to see the first reading of it on January 21st, 2025. And did approve the first reading. After the first reading came out, there was an email sent to council in regards to a suggested change. One that I am not sure how would be regulated to begin with, which was the regulating the distance someone hits the ball. That email was, so that's the only public input we received back on this ordinance. And you did have Chris Ruggier step forward and commend the new permitting process as well. So we're hoping for approval tonight.
Councilmember Martinez.
Well, I have no question. We discussed all this the last time, so,
Councilmember Escobedo,
no.
Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Stowe.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up just for a minute what we were talking about last time. I do want to note that there was a public email sent to everyone here, I believe. In Citizen, were you CC'd on that?
Yes, that's the one that, well, the one I mentioned was they wanted us to try to regulate the distance in which a softball or baseball can be hit.
Okay, there was another one regarding the alcohol permitting. She was noting, then maybe it was just sent to all of the council members. But she was noting that when she has picnics, she likes to be able to serve wine or an option of a beer. And so just noting how, you know, if you have a picnic at the park, you can't have a beer or a wine. I do want to ask if Chris might come up for a moment just to speak on, to clarify his statement as well.
Well, the kind of use that I have in mind particularly would be, say, music events.
Sure.
Say we have something that's a larger event that could have some a picnic license or something like
Sure.
that. I personally am in favor of the moderate intake of whatever beverage anyone chooses. Now, the last time this came up before council, which was quite a few years ago, there was vociferous public opposition and lots of concern about the idea of drunken people falling over, hurting the kids,
Sure.
things like that. So there's a balance
Yeah.
to strike. Like I said, personally, I like to have a drink with my picnic as well, but how you handle that part, that's beyond me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to clarify, the last thing on that is how it will be enforced. And I apologize, Chief. Do you mind coming up? We're using you for all you got today.
Gives me a chance to do some work.
I used to be told that you never say you don't, how, or like you phrase, you don't know how much I'm thankful for you because you just say thank you, but I don't know which way is better. Thank you for everything you do, really. I know we've talked about this at a past meeting. I almost brought my koozie, but I forgot it. If I put a koozie over this, does an officer walk up and they start pulling koozies off unless someone's publicly intoxicated?
Very good point. No, we do not.
Okay, and so.
I was actually just having a conversation about this probably a couple of weeks ago. When I first started working, drinking while operating a motor vehicle was illegal. I mean, was legal.
allowed. I knew you were
Was
saying that.
legal,
Yeah,
was
yeah,
legal.
Yeah,
But they just couldn't actually consume it while they were driving, which made no sense to me.
yeah,
And so, but I actually, I remember back in the day, I see this one guy, he has a beer bottle tilted, long neck tilted back, and he's chugging it, he's driving along. And this is probably when I first started. And I remember writing him a citation for
sure.
consuming while driving. And but now you have so many different shapes of an alcoholic beverage. They look like, well, some are sports drinks now. And so it's very difficult to be able to determine what it's.
So how do you see your officers enforcing this? Like,
And,
if someone's super
unless
drunk,
unless
they're
they're
coming home,
unless they're intoxicated,
okay.
I really,
Yeah.
unless they're blatantly holding a
24
alcoholic beverage.
ounce
Yeah,
huge beer and it's not covered in any way. And,
correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I get
or a
it.
bottle of tequila or a bottle of Jack Daniels or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's trying to do that.
Yeah.
The constituent that, or rather the resident of the county that said, we're just saying that they wanted to be able to have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
But well, I appreciate everything you're doing and I appreciate your knowledge on all of this. Thank you.
All right.
Is there anybody that would want to make a motion in this? I don't know if we have the appetite, but I'm willing to keep the laws as we have them or rather change a little bit, but note that we already say we can't have intoxication. We already, have a lot of laws like that, and this, I don't know, yeah.
Christopher, do you have?
The one piece missing there is the permitting process where you could actually have a concert
Yeah.
and have a, a beer tent or something.
Yeah,
That would still be illegal under the current regime.
under the current regime. So,
Under this one that we're about to.
This one, you could, yeah.
oh, you
Could
can't.
do that.
Yeah, you have a
Oh, yeah.
way to make that happen.
Yeah, I wasn't, last meeting, we tried to take out the alcohol, one ordinance for saying that you can drink in, but there wasn't an appetite to do that, so I'm guessing that's still the feeling here today.
Councilmember Stevens,
That's my
Councilmember,
right.
Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Martinez.
Very good. Well,
Okay,
thank y'all.
so are we ready to vote?
I'll vote in favor.
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2025-01-02. Moving on to action item C, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item C is to approve resolution 2025-02-01. A resolution approving a nonprofit group to administer the Mountain Country Christmas event for the period of 2 years.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion, we approve it, but I have no idea about what we're gonna recommend. So I'll just make the motion that we approve. We need to have a discussion, so we get the dialogue going.
I'll second it.
Okay.
This
City
first
Manager.
reading, right? Yeah.
No, it's a
So this is a
resolution.
resolution.
That's it.
Oh,
And so I do want to provide some backup conversation. Lucy, you seconded, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, just trying to tell my notes here.
Sorry.
We're legal.
So at the last conversation, I had this as a discussion item. The city has had this in place on and off. It's been a little bit confusing, a little bit of a mess. Why the city does it this way, I cannot answer. And I did reach out to someone prior and try to get some more information. Because of the last discussion, it was brought up, well, why don't we just let the nonprofits just do it themselves? Why are we sponsoring, hosting? Just let someone do it. I can't find any historical information other than the other resolutions that showed where we had someone assigned to do it. I don't know if there was a significant event at the time that this was the city's event and maybe the city hosted it for a while and then decided to give it to nonprofits. The individual I reached out had been the city secretary for some time here as well, and she wasn't, it was just what we did. I know I'm speaking with Counselor Nance. I know he's not here tonight to follow up on the discussion, but I'm kind of in agreement with him as far as instead of recommending a 2-year sponsorship, allow it for 1 year, pick a nonprofit, but then moving forward, just let the nonprofit move forward with it. We have a discounted civic center rate to begin with. It wouldn't be a huge amount out of their pocket. It is their fundraiser. But then we wouldn't be going through the process of who do we decide to choose? If they don't follow through with it, whose responsibility does it become? This isn't really a city event anymore. I think that maybe moving forward, we just allow a nonprofit to just run with it. As far as the title of the event, I can't find anywhere that says, well, that's a city title, that's a city event. So I really would like council to consider amending the motion to allow it for 1 year and then moving forward, let a nonprofit just run with it. Instead of us having to every 2 years, every year. Make this
So you're saying the nonprofit we choose this evening would be the one that would have it to run with forever?
I wouldn't say that. I would just say that we're no longer gonna sponsor it. So whoever wants to do a Christmas festival, Christmas carnival, Christmas market, Country Mountain Christmas, however they want to title it, may choose to do so. And they can schedule it through the normal process. I know that was a hiccup this past year. There was some, I could say the rumor mill, well, the city messed up. We award it, we don't schedule it. They still have to pay the deposit, they still have to clean up, they still have to do all the work. I think if an organization wants to have a permanent holiday event, they could run with it themselves, unless council wants to continue every 2 years. But you do have people apply now, and so that's something city council will need to take into consideration as well. You have 2 applications. You have the Alpine Humane Society and you have the Alpine Women's Fund.
and which one are we granting this to? And
Your
We have to
decision.
decide
Oh,
that
we have to
tonight,
say-
and look
okay.
at the applications.
From what I was told, the process 20 years ago was it was to alter or alternate between nonprofits. Not all nonprofits applied, then it got narrowed down to where it was just really one who always applied. The past 2 times that we've opened this up following the same process and procedures, you've had multiple people apply.
Mhm.
Council then makes a decision on who gets it. I'm thinking moving forward that the city not put that practice or continue that practice in place and just, if someone wants to run a Christmas event, let them run it. And the city removes themselves from it.
I have a few questions whenever it may.
Okay. Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess I'm trying to like catch up from, I remember someone, I wouldn't call them like disgruntled, but they were a little bit perhaps, they had an issue that they weren't, that the process didn't go the way they expected, I guess, this past year. We can say it that way. Is this, in your opinion, maybe personal, is this providing favoritism to one organization over another rather than just allowing someone to be like, hey, we're renting it as a nonprofit and we're throwing this event, just like I think everyone else does?
So that was part of the conversation as far as why don't you just let a nonprofit do it? They do it themselves. Because if one organization's always chose over another, does it start to look like that? How do you make the determination on which nonprofit? Do you give other nonprofits an opportunity? Do you rotate? Part of the discussion with Counselor Nance was exactly that, as far as why don't you just let the nonprofits do it? The Civic Center rental fee is nominal compared to a full-blown rental fee.
The
And then-
nonprofit rate too is
Yeah.
even cheaper, to my
and
understanding.
then council's not picking an organization, there's not the development of a favoritism or a personal concern or connection.
Yeah.
And then they can choose to do it whenever they want. Maybe we have 4 nonprofits and every weekend from Thanksgiving to Christmas, we have a Christmas event.
Yeah.
But it would.
And I'm on the library board, so if I would recuse myself if I said, well, it should be the Alpine Library that should get this, right? And I'll note that they have an event coming up in a couple months. I might be dancing in it, and they paid the nonprofit rate.
With a tutu.
I might show up in drag, you got it. But so where's that going? I mean, like, shouldn't we just say, hey, rent the thing if you want to do it, do a Hanukkah, a Christmas party, a Mardi Gras, whatever the heck you
That's what
want,
she's
right?
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
And I tried to
Yeah.
find the historical tie, like why we continue to do it the way we did it. And unfortunately, for whatever the original intent was, maybe it was a full-blown city function and then we, passed it down. But moving forward, I think it would just be better if a nonprofit wanted to do something.
And I want to know too, I don't remember if Councilmember Stevens was here the last time we chose, but both of these applicants both applied for it last time too.
And you had a third one last time.
Right.
Who did
It
we
did
give
not
it to
apply.
last time?
It was awarded to the Women's Club.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez?
Yeah, so the Women Club has been running these for several years.
They have, it wasn't always done open the way it was. Of course, then we had the pandemic, we had some issues where we didn't have it. When I started, they had just gotten it because the one prior backed out,
What year was that? Give some context.
2013.
2013.
So my question is, if we choose for this year, the Alpine Human Society, who is, who they need the support, and they do 1 year and they don't do it, so who will keep doing this? Nobody?
Any nonprofit could do it, or city council could put in the same process where we go back out and ask.
Surrender.
That's all we have to do is break.
Councilmember Escobedo?
So I do have a little bit of historical on the Mountain Country Christmas. When I was working for the Chamber of Commerce, that's how it kind of started. And it was just to get a bunch of vendors to come out and do the Mountain Country Christmas on the first weekend of December. I don't know, somewhere after I left. I don't know what exactly happened. But that's basically what it was. And I guess,
That was the chamber.
I
ran
guess
it.
nonprofit organizations after that started getting into it.
Pardon my interruption, that's the way they do it in Fort Davis. The chamber does all those events, yeah.
And that's how they would make, a little bit of money.
Councilmember Stevens,
So I propose a resolution, an amendment to the resolution,
okay,
that we choose it for a term of 1 year.
okay,
That we modify the resolution fifth whereas. To say instead of the city received 3 applications, we received 2, because that's what in fact happened. And that to choose between the 2, we flip a coin, and I have a 1922 silver dollar. We can flip, we can call one heads, one tails, and that's whatever it is.
Just throw it away.
I like that idea, yes, so that way we're not accused.
We're not
of
in the
favor-
middle
It's just, it is what it is.
We don't need to get into that.
Okay,
Why can't we just say we don't do it? You know, it just whoever applies tomorrow for at 8 a.m. gets to the door to have the event. They just do that, I mean, and then somebody else could have a Christmas bazaar. I
There
think
can
that
be
that's
2 or
the-
3 of
we
them.
get rid of this
Yeah,
this
but
year,
if I-
I'd like to do it next year.
I'm just
yeah.
trying to-
I agree. I love, that's a great play. It's fun.
wow. Okay, so do I have a second on Councilmember Stevens' amendment?
I second.
Okay, all right, so any more discussion on that amendment? Okay, do I have any additional amendments?
The coin.
I mean, the amendment to the amendment would be that, I guess we go the route that I was describing where we just don't approve this tonight, but I don't know.
All right, do we have a second to the amendment to the amendment?
My
Like-
amendment is to flip the coin and to get the decision up front.
Okay. All right, so we have a second to the amendment. Let's vote on the amendment before we do any kind of coin flipping or anything. The amendment was to flip the coin and to make it for 1 year.
I'll vote in favor of the amendment.
Bye.
Aye.
Okay, and we need to dispose of the original motion as now amended.
Aye.
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 All right, so City Secretary, the amendment passed and the disposal of the original motion as amended has also passed. All right, so we
Can
shall,
we just confirm for the record, like, exactly what y'all want? to be
okay,
reflected in the
sure,
minutes?
because Gio has to type it out.
Says I have, it was amended by Counselor Stevens to modify the fifth whereas to reflect the 2 applicants applied. And that a coin flip
Well,
decide whether,
the first part was for a term of 1 year.
okay, oh yes, I get that as well.
The second was to fix the whereas, and the third was to make a decision based upon a coin toss.
Mhm.
Okay,
All right,
All right.
and who shall decide what heads is?
Chief.
I say we get a
A
Chris
rant?
Ruggia from the public.
Here we go,
Okay,
so
Chris,
come on up, come on up,
We
Chris.
could do a random,
And we have
pull up a little thing that
Hey,
gives
Chris.
you a number.
That like
Here's,
before.
here is a silver dollar to flip.
You want me to flip it?
You're gonna flip it.
Okay.
You decide who's gonna be heads, who's gonna be tails.
Heads.
Okay, Humane Society's heads. Women's Club is tails.
So who did you say was gonna be heads or tails?
Humane.
Society's
Okay, got it,
heads, and
got
the
it.
Women's Club is tails. And it's heads.
So it's the Humane Society
Humane
will
Society.
receive the award.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Good for a book someday.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay.
Well done, Councilmember Stevens. All right, so we're moving on to action item D, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item D is to approve resolution 2025-02-02. A resolution authorizing the City of Alpine Environmental Services Department to participate in the Keep Texas Beautiful and Texas Department of Transportation's Governor Community Achievement Award Program.
I need a motion.
We approved the resolution authorizing the city of Alpine Environmental Service Department to participate in the Keep Texas Beautiful and Texas Department of Transportation Governor's Community Achievement Award Program.
I'll second that.
Great. City Manager discussion.
So we are actually ineligible to be awarded this next grant, but it is highly recommended by Keep Texas Beautiful and the Department of Transportation to apply to show the continuance of what we've done with our community and what Adelina has successfully done. Just a reminder, in 2024, we did receive first place, earning $130,000 cash monetary project. that is set to start in the next 2 years.
Okay.
It is tied to the state funding as well. The application deadline is February 13th. It does have a $25 application fee. Included is a copy of the application. Adelina, I did not include all of the additional pictures and flyers and stuff within the application for your packets. Adelina does a wonderful job.
Yes,
Yes, she does.
All right, Councilmember Stevens,
No additional comments.
Councilmember Stone,
When's the next native tree giveaway?
It has not been set.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
So you said that it would be in 2 years again, the Give Texas Beautiful?
Yes, so we'll apply every year, but until we go through that 3-year period, then we actually may get awarded again.
We will need to clean downtown so we can get first place. So, okay.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo. Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary Council unanimously approved 2025-02-02. Moving on to action item E, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Approved special use permit 2025-01-02. A special use permit application allowing the applicant Alpine Velocity Ops LLC, DBA Velocity number 19, to obtain a wine and malt beverage retail dealers off-premise BQ permit from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 1500 West US 90. The property owner of record is CO Jones Enterprises LLC. The parcel ID of the subject is 11321. The current zoning designation of the subject property is C1A Neighborhood Commercial District. If approved, the zoning will remain C1A Neighborhood Commercial District.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the special use permit 2025-01-02.
I need a second.
I second it.
Okay, City Manager.
This is actually being filed because it's a change in ownership. Most of you know this location as Tom's Triangle,
Yeah.
previously owned by Eric Foss. It has been sold to new ownership and they're applying for the license to continue to operate as is.
Okay. Councilmember Escobedo,
You need to say it.
Councilmember Martinez,
I know we're going to see the next one, who is 18, so there are 2 different owners. So they're separately stores.
Actually,
Someone.
See,
so the way that the agenda items, and I visited with Gio beforehand because I had the same like little thought process. The way it's worded is it's the property currently on file. So the business has sold, but the files haven't been updated. So as a public search, if you were to go in, that's the name that came up. The people who are applying for it are the same people. They are, just hasn't registered yet for this public search.
Do they have this permit before or they never had this permit before?
The business currently in place, that owner did have the permit. The new owners are applying for the permit. The permit can't transfer.
Okay.
Councilmember Escobedo,
Okay.
Councilmember Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. So in reality, and I know we're talking about this particular action item, but the next action item is the same owner. So basically, they bought 2 properties, the Triangle and then 610 West Holland, which is the
Which is
Amigos.
Amigos,
Amigos.
both owned by the
They
same
owned.
person prior.
My gut reaction is we got lots of people doing alcohol in the city, but that's their business decision. You know, that's my frustration. We got,
Mhm.
anyway, I got another comment.
Okay, all right, let's vote.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
All right, City Secretary, special use permit 2025-01-02, passed unanimously. Moving on to action item F, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Approved special use permit 2025-01-03, a special use permit application allowing the applicant Alpine Velocity Ops LLC, DBA Velocity number 18, to obtain a wine and malt beverage retail dealer's off-premise BQ permit from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 610 West Holland Avenue. The property owner of record is Seneca Leonardo and Morgan. The parcel ID of the subject property is 12360. The current zoning designation of the subject property is C2 Business District. If approved, the zoning will remain C2 Business District.
Any motion?
We approve special use permit 2025-01-03.
I need a second.
I say,
Discussion, city manager.
So this is along the same lines. This property has been sold and the current owners are requesting the alcohol license. This is the location, what we call Amigos.
We're not referring to Amigos Restaurant. We're
No.
referring to the convenience
This is
store.
the convenience store off of Holland and 11.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Stone,
Got nothing.
Councilmember Martinez,
no questions.
Councilmember Escobedo, Councilmember Stevens.
Nope.
Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council voted unanimously to approve special use permit 2025-01-03. Moving on to action item G, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item G is to approve special use permit 2025-01-04. A special use application allowing the applicant Alpine Harry's LLC is requesting the permit be issued to obtain a wine and malt beverage retail dealers on premise permit BG and late hour certificate LH from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. The subject property is located at 412 East Holland Avenue. The property owner of record is Moy Harry and Lang Moy and Claudia. The parcel ID of the subject property is 12335. The current zoning classification of the subject property is C2 Business District and will remain the same if the applicant is approved.
Any motion?
We approve special use permit 2025-01-04.
Second.
Okay, discussion, city manager.
This property has been sold. This is a change in ownership and the new owner is requesting the ability to sell alcohol. This is Harry's Tanaha.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens,
Nothing else?
Councilmember, no question, Councilmember Stone.
Can't wait to go hang at Harry's.
All right, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, special use permit 2025-01-04 was approved unanimously.
More work for the chief police. So more work for you with all this alcohol selling.
All right.
I don't think
Yeah.
we're changing anything. That's the thing.
Yeah,
So we're
we're just changing ownership.
Yeah, ownership, yeah.
So Harry's hasn't operated for some time.
Good,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
All right, moving on to action item H, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Award request for proposal RFP to Aragon and Jarrett Dirt Work and Paving for road materials responsive to the request for proposal 2024-12-01.
Motion,
Move we approve the award the request for proposals to Aragon and Jarrett Dirt Works and paving for road materials responsive to the RFP.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Discussion, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This year we got the RFP out, which is the request for proposal at the beginning of December. Eddie's team is quite set on starting paving in March. It was issued 12/1/2024. We did receive, let me go back. We requested information regarding to CR2 asphalt, MS2 asphalt, grade 4 and grade 5 rock and type D hot mix cold lay. We did receive 5 bids. Aragon Capital Aggregates, Jarrett Dirt Work and Paving, RH Dirt Work, and Green Drink International. RH Dirt Work withdrew their bid right before opening, and Green Drink International, the bid was received after the timeline, so we did return that to them. After a thorough review by the evaluation committee, and looking at the pricing and of course, relationship with the companies, Aragon and Jarrett Dirt Work and Paving were recommended as the selected vendors. Vendors demonstrated competitive pricing, ability to meet the city's requirements, and of course, a strong track record of quality of service. We are recommending that Aragon be awarded for the CR2 asphalt and the MS2 asphalt, and Jarrett Dirt Work and Paving be awarded the grade 4, grade 5 rock and type D hot mix cold lay.
Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
I guess the only question that I have, Megan, just to make sure I understand Jarrett Dirt Works for the grade 4 and grade 5 rock. Then we've got the hotness 700 tons. Who's doing that?
Jarrett.
Jeff's gonna do that. Okay, thank you. I got nothing else.
Okay, Councilmember Escobedo.
I don't have
Yes.
anything.
Martinez?
No questions.
Councilmember Stone?
Trying to learn, is there a reason that you split the contract up, or was that done? differently
So
than I'm at?
Aragon produces the emulsion, the liquid substance that goes on, and
businesses.
Jared produces the gravelly stuff.
Yeah.
They don't, one or the other
Gotcha.
doesn't produce the other.
Oh, gotcha. Do they talk well to each other, I'm guessing? Like, it's not gonna be hanging, I've seen, just for instance, my street was graded, I wanna say 5 times over a month until they laid something down. Do we expect things like that to happen again?
I don't believe so. He's dead set on moving forward. He's got a team in place. He is staffed. We have a training ground now. So he wants start to finish,
Yeah, that-
minus the weather.
That's Eddie. That's not these guys.
Yeah. Okay, so we're doing something different than last year. Gotcha.
Okay, all right, ready to vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, city secretary, city council unanimously approved the award request for proposals to Ergon and Jarrett Dirt Works. Moving on to action item I, city manager.
Thank you. Approved transfer of $3,000 hotel occupancy grant funds not utilized by the Alpine Gallery Night Art Walk event to the Spirits of the West event.
Need a motion?
I'll make it. Good.
Oh. Make a motion to approve transfer of 3,000 hot funds not utilized by Alpine Gallery Nights to the Spirits of the West event.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion, city manager.
Our Alpine Gallery Night reached out in regards to utilizing some of the funds that they didn't fully utilize for the art walk event. They reached out to me and to Chris Ruggia both. In discussion with Chris Ruggia, we thought it best to present this to council because it is 2 separate events that were approved by city council. Typically, if it's moving money within one event, maybe they're used more for advertising than they did for arts. We do that within the city itself. It's an internal process. But because council awarded specific funds to these different events, we're bringing it before council. Art Walk did not utilize all of their funding and they're requesting the remaining $3,000 to be utilized for their Spirits of the West event.
Okay, Councilmember Stone,
Think it sounds good. These are great things for town.
Councilmember Martinez.
These $3,000 will be used on advertisements or on arts.
Come on up, Lance. Please state your name and your affiliation with this item.
Good evening. Thank you for having me and considering this. My name is Lance Johnson. I'm the executive director of Alpine's Gallery Night, and we run Art Walk and Spirits of the West. So it's the same organization, same tax ID. We had efficiencies in our band scheduling for Art Walk. So we paid a little less. We had less expenses for them, traveling expenses, hotel expenses. So we had some leftover money. So we would love to be able to move that to Spirits, where we receive significantly less money for that event. So that would really help us out to fill the gap in our band schedule.
So this money will be used for the music.
Also for music, that is correct. Yeah, music to music.
Councilmember Escobedo,
No, you answered the questions I had. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
All right,
Lance.
thank you very much.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, council voted unanimously to approve the transfer of $3,000 hotel occupancy grant funds not utilized by Alpine Gallery Night Art Walk to the Spirits of the West event. Okay, with that, that moves us to executive reports. Okay, city mayor report, 6 minutes on the clock, please, city secretary. Okay, I just want to remind council that currently we have boards that do have to meet quorum. That could be changed in the future, but as of now, we do. Look to fill your seats, please. We have 1 seat filled this evening. Thank you, Lucy, for that. And then also, if you're interested in doing your civic duty and helping to run the city of Alpine, we do have an election coming up with a filing deadline of February 14th.
Oh, it's coming up.
It's coming up quickly. Yes, so you too can come up here and help guide the city through some marvelous processes. And that's it. Moving on to city manager report, please, 6 minutes on the clock.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, once again, it's not listed out, council. So as per TOMA, which is the Texas Open Meetings Act, we cannot ask any questions or discuss the item she mentions.
Now my 6 minutes starts.
Yeah. Reset it.
Just some updates. Council was kind of provided an update on where we're at with ordinances. I wanted the community to be updated as well. We are currently working on updating the zoning ordinance, establishing a new alcohol ordinance, updating the sign ordinance, short-term rental ordinance, hotel occupancy tax ordinance, sale of city property ordinance, and the 380 agreement ordinance. Those are all in place, actively being worked right now. Council was provided a little bit more information. I've been working with our legal team, a little bit on the 380, and then of course the sale of the properties come up. With regard to the wastewater treatment plant, the project is moving right along. The first section of drying beds has been cleaned and rehabilitated. We worked with our engineers on assistance with the disposal of material in the city landfill. We did have a hiccup with it not being allowed. After some back and forth, TDS has come back and said that they'll accept it, which is a relief because right now we're kind of just been holding on to it. On the water department, water leak, sewer backup. They have had consecutive water leaks, back to back in the Sunny Glen area. Last week we had 3 alone. I did bring it up once before with council in regards to the easements and having the accessibility to fix these leaks. The team has done really well with going in and being able to repair them fairly fast. One of the other items I did mention to the city council is we do have a leak in one of our storage tanks in Sunny Glen. Utility interim director Johnny Marcus has been working with vendors to try to follow our current procurement process in regards to getting this fixed. At this point, with the summer months coming up, we obviously aren't having that cold winter. I will be making an emergency decision to move forward with those repairs with the one vendor who has applied or responded. They will be coming in. We do not have to empty the storage tank. They will be diving into our tanks to repair that. Our big concern, of course, is with the water loss and then the upcoming weather. Since that's the side of town that does struggle, we're going to eliminate this from being a problem. We did receive the propagation report on the smart meters, and this was discussed. I held a meeting with Premier Waterworks, our interim utility director, to go over kind of what they came back with. The city has a very, very, very good opportunity with smart meters as far as being able to access the signal and the location. There is a very small, less than 30 meters that we would have to tweak in order to be able to get those reads. But for the most part, 98% of our city can go smart meter. They are willing to set a demo in place, and I have volunteered council members to take on a smart meter. Yep. This will show you kind of what it is. We talked about software compatibility. They do have their own customer portal that will show them their usage, that they can actually set up kind of like, hey, if it spikes, let me know, little reminders. No, they do not have the ability to turn their water system on and off. They can't put it on vacation themselves. They are also compatible with the utility softwares that we've been looking at, which we do have a presentation set for the next meeting to move that and with the new software on that direction. Their customer portal will tie into our utility software portal. It would just be an additional kind of little click. The software side would give them more of the billing work orders, and then the portal side with the smart meter gives them more of the usage. I asked for a quote. 1.7 million.
For the software?
No, for the smart meters for the whole entire city.
Just
That's all commercial and residential. This is an estimate based on the information we could provide them. We couldn't give them exact numbers of what is a 3/4 meter, what is a 2-inch meter. But we're looking at about 1.7 million to replace the current system. I did ask that this be done by a third party. Our employees would watch and they would get to learn, but they would not actually be doing the installment. If there was a curb stop broke or something like that, our employees would come out and assist, but they would actually be prepared to help fix all of that. That does, of course, increase the price because it is a third-party company coming out, not just the cost of the meters. I felt that in light of our current situation and with our crew, let's go ahead and look at that third party instead of doing it ourselves. This is just a quote. We had the financial conversation earlier. There are ways to pay for this, so I am going to start looking at that direction. We did get some fascinating news. As a member of the International City Managers Association, I had the opportunity to throw the city of Alpine's a name in the hat for a city county management senior fellowship program with the United States Army. Never thought in the world that out of our cohort, we would be selected. So the city of Alpine has been selected to host a transitioning member of the U.S. Army. We are one of 14. There are 2 different fellows coming from Germany and Poland as well. So this is a big international program. It is through the Army Fellowship and the ICMA. The program is designated or tailored to the Army participants to gain better understanding of how city and county management works. Ideally, this is for those who are transitioning out of the military into the civil service life. Our host or our fellow is Garrison Manager Vance Penn, who is currently stationed in California.
City Secretary, according to chapter 23, we can have 4 more minutes.
It does entail multiple virtual meetings, which we had our first one today. A trip to Washington, DC that is paid for by ICMA, and then 1 week on site. So he would be here 1 week, kind of like an internship program. I definitely am gonna pick a week where it's gonna be exciting. City council meetings, boards and commissions. It participates. And it is participation from all over. It's really exciting. Like I said, this is a first for the city of Alpine. So I'm excited. There is one other city in our cohort in Texas, Schertz, Texas. So we kind of got a minute to compare notes. There are no specific expectations outlined besides really showing this person what it's like to operate a city.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report? All right, so city council and also to members of the public, do you have any questions or want more details on any of the items? We cannot discuss them tonight because of the Texas Open Meetings Act, but you can always email Megan. And I know her email list is about 200 emails long, but she'll eventually get to your question and be able to give you more details. All right, moving on to city council member comments. Councilmember Stevens,
Nice meeting. I have nothing else.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I thought it's a really good productive meeting also. A lot of good information.
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank you, audience today. Yay, we have more than usually. Thank you for being here. You know, you can come every time. And thank you. It was a good meeting.
Councilmember Stowe.
Thanks for everybody joining, and just want to say thanks to our Sergeant of Arms and Chief of Police for everything he does. Thank you a lot.
Yes, and I want to second that, Chief, and thank you guys for being here and for coming. And I want to remind the public that you can go to the City of Alpine YouTube channel and look at any of the commission and board meetings as well as city council meetings. So be sure to check that out and pass that message along to your friends, neighbors, and families so that they know that they can be a part of the city, even if they can't be here at 5:30, the first and third Tuesday of every month. All right, and with that, that moves us into executive session. So this brings us to item number 14, executive session. Pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, the city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from the attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the possible sale and/or acquisition of property for long-term overall city goals and planning, including city-owned structures. May I get a motion to move into executive session?
We move into executive session.
I need a second. Any discussion? Let's vote.
Hi.
I,
City Secretary Council voted unanimously to move into executive session. We are beginning executive session at 7:25 PM.
He was, he didn't know what to do, so I told him
Okay, are we off? Okay.
We are.
No.
May I have a motion, please, to reconvene into open session?
Make a motion to reconvene into open session.
I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary Council voted to reconvene into open session at 8:20 PM. This brings us to item number 15, action after executive session. May I get a motion, please?
Mayor, I move that the city council authorize the city manager to negotiate with property owner at property ID 11825 to purchase the property, and we authorize the city manager to sign a purchase agreement.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary Council has voted unanimously to authorize the city manager to negotiate with the property owner at property ID 11825 and is authorized to sign off on the purchase agreement. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned. 8:21.
Pretty close.
Well, yes.